Yeah, I think I don't know how far off we were in game one because we got behind it so quickly. And we kind of even in game two, depending on what sources you use, we have our own. But the analytics in game two were better than the final score said. And then of the last four games that we've played even strength, last night was our smallest margin for offense. So final scores doesn't tell you how the game's played for the most part.
Coach, in the past you have said that AJ Greer is built for the
Yeah.
playoffs. What has he shown you these last 3 games?
You know what? I would start with day two of training camp, actually, because day one hurt him. And day two, I've never seen a guy work that hard to push himself through a painful experience. Really shocking. And I never forgot that. And that's why we kept him in the lineup for every game minus injury this year. He just earned it. But he's big and he's fast. And when he plays a direct game, simple game, that's what playoffs is. So he's, he will get there if he can. He'll get to the net if he can. He will do all the hard things if it's there for him to do. And he's trained himself to do that. It's some guys do wind themselves. They can get to a different emotional level in playoffs. And then there are guys that just train themselves all year to play a certain style of game that just happens to be the game that's played in the playoffs.
Paul, you've said a couple times, both times when Ekblad came back from his suspensions, about how he stabilizes your back
Yep.
end. How have you seen that sort of play out with your three pairings over the last 3 years?
It takes the pressure off the rest of the group. It takes the pressure off. You know what? Even Sylvain Lefebvre, in terms of the matchup, you have a different matchup depth. So then you look at the minutes last night. It takes minutes off all of those guys. We don't have to push people outside of a normal range. I think he's just good. Like the progress that Aaron's made over the last 3 years is remarkable in terms of changing his style of play and then excelling in that new style. He's a physical, hard gap man, and the points now are secondary to how we value his game. But what's interesting, then he puts up more points.
And if I can just follow up on that, just how tough is it to adjust like that when he was offensive minded first to do what he's doing for you guys now?
It's a real process because there's a reason that he was viewed as an offensive defenseman. He has that ability, he has that skill. There's just so much more to the game than defensemen creating offense. So it takes a little bit of faith there to value other parts of your game, but you find that for Aaron, I think we're going to find that with Seth Jones as well. When your focus is on a different part of the game and you get that part right, the offense becomes something that follows along, that improves, from a secondary importance, but it improves to a point that you get more offense in the end. That's okay. This mic only has one left in it, though, I think.
You've talked about Sam Reinhart's intelligence.
Yeah.
Where do you see that most manifest?
I thought in this year, and I'm trying to figure that word most, it would be in his ability to adapt his game to the style of game, style of team he plays against. But I thought this year especially, certain fatigue levels that he faced over the course of the year. So I think we're as fresh probably this year right now as we've been all year because of our schedule. I mean, he was clocking to play 86 regular season games, right, and played more hockey than anybody else in the league. And there were some nights where the legs weren't quite there, and he just adapted the way he played. He didn't cover as much ice. He made his earlier reads, shift length. So I thought it's in his adaptation to a game. He doesn't play the same game every night. And where some guys will say, I just didn't have my A game, and so I wasn't very good tonight, he'll just adapt and play a different style, a little bit more patient at times. He's feeling it, lots of jump, very physical actually. But he can do that. He can be very effective in different styles.
What has your current team learned about how to approach closeout games?
Well, the first lesson was Toronto 2 years ago. We had a 3-0 series lead, went home and wanted it so bad that we tried to make it happen every time we touched the puck. We were just throwing hope plays, and so I think a bit of patience in the game. But if you learn something, you usually don't forget it, right? Like if you learn how to tie your shoe 2 years later, you don't forget. But so we thought we learned it 2 years ago, and then forgot it for 3 straight games in the final last year. So it's nothing you get to keep. It's something that you have to live through, and maybe you'll recall pieces of it.
Paul, you juggled a bit with that fourth line at the beginning of the series. What were you looking for at that time, and what did you find with Nosek, Gadjovic, and
Yeah,
Greer?
it wasn't a hope. Like, what happened there was actually the last 6 weeks of the season, the regular season. Those guys. So we at the trade deadline, you bring some people in, and part of the challenge with that is, finding the right places for those guys to play. But you've also then got guys who've been here all year who aren't in the lineup. But the things that I complained about in the last 6 weeks have turned out to be a great thing for us. I complained about our schedule because it was egregious, to say the least. But it forced us, though that line played together and they were great. And they were consistently really, really good in the regular season. So that when you got to game, I'm looking for a style change in the way that we're playing the game, and I have that memory of that line. And that's all those guys. We either played teams that were fighting for their lives, or we played teams that were either completely out of it, or there were a few teams that had already made it. But those guys played the exact same game against all 3 different situations. They didn't take a team lightly. They didn't have risk in their game where they cost us a game against one of those teams that was fighting for their lives. They were really, really consistent. So when they went on in the game, I think they had a really good idea of what they were doing together. They sat together on the bench. They were cheering for each other. There was some redemption for them. They got back into our lineup. They don't want to give those spots up. So good on them. It wasn't coaching genius by any means. It wasn't. Had they not done what they had done at the end of the year, I wouldn't have seen that. I wouldn't have known that was there. But they earned it.
Coach, one stat making the rounds is you guys have 17 different guys with at least a goal through 10 games.
Yeah.
First time since, I think, the Kings in '93, so quite a while. Just what does it do for the group when every guy kind of has a recent goal and kind of feels good about their game at the same time, like you guys have going right now?
Well, I'm thinking that we got 26 guys here, so that makes nine guys that are getting chirped pretty hard every day. The goalies feel good, right? Like playoff goals especially, but anytime. The goal is what makes you feel good. It's when you got a guy that's not scoring, it's always the same line of thinking, I don't have my confidence. I don't have confidence. So as a coach, you're going, how do I give a guy confidence? Like, score harder. Like, how do you do that? So the fact that you can spread it around, that they're all carrying into a game a belief, a reasonable belief that they can score, because they have. In the last 10 games, they've scored a goal. They feel it. They feel good about where they're at. You can't do much for a guy when he doesn't have that positive feeling. Like, you're getting your chances, hang in there. But to have a number of guys that come to the rink feeling good about their game is really important.